Hey guys! What's up? Alpha Lion Simba here, and welcome to another episode of Magnificent and Mythological. Now, you guys all know I've always been a sucker for dragons, and I've talked about folk tales of dragons from all over the world, but there's another realm of fiction where dragons absolutely thrive, and that is movies. Now, when it comes to dragons in movies, the dragons in a movie can either be good guys and helpers to the heroes, much like Eastern dragons, or fierce villains or adversaries for the hero to fight, just like with most Western dragons. And we're going to show you the most memorable movie dragons. And before I begin, I'd like to give a quick shout out to my buddy Movie Fan, because he did his own video on movie dragons, and if you want to see it, I'll put the link in the description. So, let's begin. Alright, let's talk about good dragons, beginning with the powerful, the pleasurable, the indestructible Mushu from Disney's Mulan. Now, I'm sure anyone who has seen Mulan absolutely loves Mushu. For starters, his design. Since, well, he's a Chinese dragon, his design is very accurate to how an Eastern dragon should look. Now, many dragons in movies that are good guys serve as the helpers for our main hero, and that's exactly what Mushu does. He serves as a perfect sidekick for Mulan, and at times, even something of a surrogate father figure. True, sometimes he does end up getting Mulan in trouble in the army, but he's not being malicious about it or anything. He just maybe doesn't know any better. And even after Mulan is exposed as a girl, Mushu sticks by her, and of course, he helps her defeat the Huns in a very ingenious manner. And I gotta say, if that ain't friendship, I don't know what is. With his powers, Mushu is a little bit on the slower side because he can't breathe fire very well, or when he does use his fire breath, it's in very small sparks, but hey, it was at least the catalyst that helped Mulan wipe out almost the entire Hun army in one fell swoop. He also sometimes uses impressions and trickery to his aid. Like when we first meet him, he tries to pose himself as a much bigger dragon than he is. And of course, he manages to get Mulan to battle by posing as a soldier, with a little help from Cricky, of course. Speaking of which, he and Cricky just play each other off so well, it's very enjoyable. And of course, as everyone knows, Mushu is voiced by Eddie Murphy. Ideal casting, since he's supposed to be the movie's comedy relief, and he has a lot of funny moments, like this.
Your armor. Oh! All right, that's it. Dishonor on your whole family. Make a note of this. Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow.
I also love it when, during the climax, Mushu goes over to the fireworks tower. They're like, "Who are you?" And he says, "Your worst nightmare." That's priceless. So when you get all that put together, Mushu is probably one of Disney's most memorable good dragons. Our next good dragon is another one from Disney, Sisu from Raya and the Last Dragon. Now, like Mushu, her design is very similar to that of your standard Eastern dragon. However, she has a little more power. Sisu can't breathe fire, but as a water dragon, she's a very good swimmer, and she can make those little air bubbles to make water so that she could run on the air. And of course, she's a shapeshifter with the ability to turn herself into a human. And as it's revealed in the film, she and her siblings are responsible for making the prized dragon gem that helped them ward off the Droon. But much like Mushu, Sisu can also serve as a little bit of comedy relief, given that she's voiced by Awkwafina, And while she's not as funny as Mushu, in fact, sometimes she can be a little irritating, she still does squeeze a few good laughs. And again, I love the relationship between her and Raya, because her personality often clashes with Raya's, and that works very well with Raya's character arc. Up next is another very well-known dragon from Disney, Elliot from Pete's Dragon. Now, first up, I find Elliot's design very unique. Elliot himself was drawn by the legendary animator Don Bluth, the same guy behind movies like The Secret of NIMH and The Land Before Time, but I like the approach that Bluth took to Elliot. His body and neck are drawn very much like how your typical dragon would be drawn, but his face seems more like a mix between a dragon and a dog. At least that's how I view it. But Elliot plays a very prominent role in the film. Like, for example, he is Pete's protector because, well, that's what he does. He protects kids who are in need of help. In this case, he is to protect Pete from the Gogans. And in terms of his powers, well, Elliot doesn't really speak English, but Pete is able to understand him. And of course, like most dragons, Elliot can breathe fire, which he does twice in the film to save the day, both to burn up Lena Gogan's deed and to help light the firehouse. But his most unique ability is the fact that he can turn invisible. Like I said, Elliot is one of Disney's most famous dragons, and having seen bits and pieces of the film myself, I can see why. Up next is Toothless from DreamWorks' How to Train Your Dragon. Now, Toothless is another one of my personal favorite animated dragons. For one, his loyalty to his friend Hiccup. Every time I watch Hiccup's screen time with Toothless, it reminds me very much of my relationships with my own pets. And of course, he's definitely one of the most powerful dragons I've ever seen. To quote my buddy Movie Fan, he breathes fire and his teeth switch in and out like a Swiss Army knife. And beyond that, he can also shoot lightning from his fire breath. That makes up for one very memorable dragon and a very likable character too. Up next is Draco from Dragonheart. Now, I haven't seen Dragonheart in its entirety. In fact, I'd never even heard of the movie until I watched Movie Fan's video. So I watched a few clips of it featuring Draco in preparation for this video, and I have to say, I like what I see so far. First up, Draco looks great. He was made completely out of CGI, and for an older movie, this is really good CGI. He perfectly looks like what a Western dragon would look like. And of course, he can fly, and he can breathe fire like most other dragons. But from what I see, he actually breathes fire out of his nostrils, which is very unique. Most dragons breathe fire out of their mouths, but from their nostrils, no. From what I've seen, Draco is voiced by the late Sean Connery, who does a superb job voicing him. And from what I've read, he forms a good friendship with our main character, Bowen. So I gotta say, I am so impressed by what I've seen that I'm about to watch Dragonheart in its entirety. Now it's time to cross over to the dark side as we talk about some evil dragons, starting with Maleficent in her dragon form. This was the very first movie dragon I had ever seen. Now, without a doubt, Sleeping Beauty is one of Disney's most beloved classics, and my favorite part was always the part in the climax where Maleficent turns into a dragon to fight Prince Philip. The fight itself is so intense, And I love Maleficent's dragon design. In fact, I remember dressing up as it for Halloween. And I love the sound that they give when she breathes fire. In fact, Maleficent's dragon form is so iconic that they reused it for a boss fight in Kingdom Hearts and in the Disney Hollywood Studios show Fantasmic. Up next, Smaug from the Middle-earth films. Now, if there was any evil dragon to plague the land of the Middle-earth, Smaug would definitely be it. He's voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch, and I have to say, Cumberbatch did a good job. He was menacing, he was cruel, and Smaug's design is fearsome. If there was any design that you could give to an evil dragon, this fits the bill perfectly. Plus, he's so tough. In fact, it's said that Smaug's hide was so hard that no sword or spear could penetrate it. In fact, he was practically unstoppable for most of the film, and all it took was one well-fired bow from Bard the Bowman to finish this dragon off. So when you get Peter Jackson's direction and all the action scenes, you make Smaug a very memorable dragon. Up next is Vermithrax from Dragon Slayer. Now, like Dragonheart, I'd never even heard of this movie until I watched Movie Fan's video, so I watched some clips to get a proper context around it, and I have to say, Vermithrax is definitely one of the scariest dragons I've ever seen in a film. Her design looks very much like that of a wyvern, and not to mention, she's so tough. The fact that our main character pierced her neck veins with a sword, and she only plucks it off like it was a thorn from a rose, that's saying something right there. Plus, I like the practical effects that they used for it. I can tell they used a mix of stop-motion animation and animatronics, and it makes her look great. Plus, it's shown that she has a vengeful streak when she found one of her dead offspring. And from what I can gather of the premise, from what I'm seeing, it's basically a virgin is always sacrificed to her, but then our hero comes to slay the dragon. That reminds me a little bit of the battle between St. George and the dragon. So yeah, I am going to have to watch this movie in its entirety too. So thanks, movie fan. And finally, there's Taro from the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. Again, I never even heard of the movie until I saw Movie Fan's list, so I had to watch the clips that featured Taro to get enough context. And you know what? Movie Fan was absolutely right. This is one memorable dragon. In fact, it was brought to life by legendary stop-motion animator Ray Harryhausen. And as always, he did a great job. And he made yet another memorable monster fight. In this case, the fight between Taro and the Cyclops. And it was great to watch. And I especially loved the sound effects that they used. So again, this made for one very memorable dragon. Well, that was it. My magnificent and mythological episode on movie dragons. Thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Leave requests in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Alpha Lion Simba, out.